What's up, Leafs fans? Welcome back to another Leafs Nation After Dark. I'm Zack Phillips, and tonight we're going to be breaking down game number 50 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season as they fall to the Ottawa Senators here tonight, 2-1. And we'll break down everything that happened, some things that didn't happen, which may be more of the story here tonight, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And as I'm reading along with the chat and seeing what everyone's saying right now, I might kind of disagree with a bunch of you guys. Seems like there's a very negative vibe in the chat that maybe I'm not fully in on here. There's been some statements and some questions popped in there specifically that I would say I'm even actually completely opposed to. We'll dig into all of that, and if people want to call into the show here tonight, you guys are more than welcome to. We'll fire the call-in link there into the chat in a moment, pin it to the top so people can call in and give their thoughts. But, I mean, yeah, it's a 2-1 loss to Ottawa in Ottawa. The winning goal for the Sens there tonight is a bat out of the air that goes across the crease, off a guy's knee, over your goalie's head, and crosses the line by this much. It was a pretty back-and-forth battle, and it just didn't go your way. We'll dig into all of that here tonight on the show, as it is a presentation of Bet365, proud partner of the Leafs Nation pregame and Leafs Nation After Dark. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. That's code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N, all caps. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So we'll fire off the chat link here for those of you who do want to call in. And where I'm going to so let's start with this, because I said it off the top that I disagree with a few of you guys in the chat, and I think maybe I'm kind of merging more into the Alberga thought process here. I don't think that this was necessarily a bad game. I think that the biggest issue that you came across was the lack of ability to score. And when I kind of zoom out on this one, I look at the fact that you had no Matthew Nyes, you have no John Tavares, no Max Pacioretty. You've got the second line of Pontus Holmberg, different guys at times, but Pontus Holmberg, Max Domi, like you're just kind of morphing into all these different rotations. You're trying to put Nylander out at times, pulling Bobby McMahon out. Like you're just going through different intervals of lineups. So I'm not necessarily like, what the hell just happened? How could you lose this game to Ottawa? The Sens get up to play you. We know that. The barn in there was pretty electric for a Maple Leafs fan perspective. You had the support of the crowd behind you, which is a positive always. And, I thought that you kind of were very engaged in the first period. Second period was a little bit of a lull there. It kind of went quiet for both teams for periods of time. There was a kick of energy here and there. And then it goes into the third period, and then it was pretty high flying. And ultimately, I looked at the Leafs, the time that they spent in the O-zone, the chances that they were creating, some of the dangerous opportunities that came up there as well. And I don't think that this ended up being like a bad game for the Leafs. You lost 2-1 off a puck that was literally batted out of the air off a knee and into the net. It's unfortunate, and like the flip side to that is, well, score goals, and I will agree with that, but then also to that point is when I look out on bigger picture, like Moody there points out, not a bad game, but we lost. Holmberg missed an open net. Agreed. But Holmberg is also the guy who's in that position right now who probably isn't if John Tavares and Max Pacioretty and Matthew Nyes are back. Which, yeah, I mean, I'm looking on the more positive side of things. I'm looking more in the direction of like, okay, what happens if you hit full health? What happens when you're there? And what if that never happens? Then, okay, I'm just having a conversation about this stuff and throwing it out there and saying you got to get there to it. But, I mean, you have a bunch of injuries, and you've got a bunch of important injuries. So when it comes to the goal scoring and it's slowing down or lacking here tonight, yeah, like that kind of makes sense. Like it kind of makes sense. This team has zero depth, is what Austin Matthews' hairline in the chat is saying. you're playing a fourth line of Fraser Minton, Jacob Quillen, and Ryan Reeves. Like, those guys were barely playing here tonight because it's a 1-1 game late. And the other thing that was said, I saw Mike Fammy throw it out there earlier when I was reading the chat as we were about to start, was like, Craig Berube decisions here tonight was the reason that the Leafs lost. I thought he did a pretty decent job of handling things with what you had. And, look at the way that the game started here tonight. You had Matthews' line go out there and have a great first shift. He rolls it out with the second line, and he goes back to the third line, and he goes back to the Matthews line for the third shift of the game. That's their second shift. Then it goes to the next line, and then he goes back to the Matthews line, and on their third shift they're able to capitalize. He was balancing things around the best he could with the guys that he had in this lineup. He was moving people in and out and trying to find ways to get Nylander more ice time and get him out there in positions where he could maybe overload a line and put Nylander, Matthews, Matthews, Marner together, moving Domi in and out of certain spots. Like, they were just kind of swapping in and out in certain areas. I thought he did a pretty decent job. Like, this is a injury depleted lineup right now that you're having to battle through. You lost 2-1 in a game where you had more expected goals than the other team. You won on the deserve to win meter. And eye test alone also felt like this was a pretty back and forth game that was pretty tight, and you lost 2-1. Denver, Zach, you are delusional. Phenom, I don't know what game you were watching, Zach. Stop making excuses for multimillionaires. I'm out. Gonna watch the other post game instead. What do you want from these guys here tonight? The first line scored. They scored the first goal of the game. Yeah, you want to win. You want to beat the Sens. I do too. I get it. Not infuriated with the results of the game tonight, other than the fact that they lost and it stinks to lose. Yeah, there's some things that you can look at with offensively with these guys, but again, I'm looking and it's like, oh wow, I wish these guys would shoot the puck. And then I take a moment and look around and I go, oh, it's fucking Steven Lorentz and David Kampf and Pontus Holmberg right now playing as your second line because you just had Nylander take a shift for Bobby McMahon on the first line. Like, looking at the guys that you're putting out there, yeah, oh, they don't have depth. Yeah, you're running through a ton of injuries with some of your most important players, your top 6 guys. Outside of the fact that you couldn't find a way to bury and you made some bad play, a couple of mistakes in the offensive zone there where it's just like, hey, we maintain possession, and then all of a sudden we turn it over and the puck leaves the zone. I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad. I want to know, honestly, like, what people are seeing here tonight, because it's like we got the boo birds out in the crowd right now. If you guys want to call in and give your thoughts on the game, because there's just a bunch of people wearing their capes right now, acting like heroes, running around talking about, pitiful game, brutal. I thought for the most part it was pretty... okay. The other thing that I would say is... The other thing that I would throw out there is that, yeah, Matthews didn't get a shot until 7 minutes into the third period. That kind of can't happen, but I thought Nylander looked pretty decent for the most part. Yeah, your power play stinks. One goal last 2 games. I don't know. It's just like reading some of this, I just have no idea what the fuck to even kind of make of some of this with what some of the comments are that are being thrown out in the chat. Mike Fammy, I'm not infuriated, but you're down 1 with less than 2 minutes left in the game. You wait until the final minute of the game to put the Matthews and Marner line out when it's basically too late. That was more of a situational issue. That was... You couldn't get those guys out there because of the flow of the play, and they were down in the offensive zone. I don't know. Seems like very opposite, polar opposite directions of this one. Yeah, there are things to point out here tonight. Offensively, you couldn't bury. You couldn't buy one if you tried here. You had a couple of opportunities at the sides of the net or in open spaces, and it's like, Pontus Holmberg can't score. Oh, David Kampf can't score. No shit. Like, we knew that going in, that these guys can't score. Nick Robertson, kind of in a spot there where he's getting a bunch of offensive chances, he can't score. Like, these are like storylines that we've known for a long time, and people are now all of a sudden acting surprised that watching this game, these guys are now elevated from third lines in which they can't find ways to put the puck in the back of the net, bumping them up to second lines, or from fourth to third or fourth to second, whatever it may be. And we're like, I can't believe they couldn't score. I can't believe Pontus Holmberg, who's been a healthy scratch this year off the fourth line, couldn't score with the second line. No shit. Like, yeah, that's what he is. He's vanilla. He's not doing too much out there. He had a couple of good games that looked decent, and it kind of reverts back. Like, it's not going to be a guy who's generating and scoring a lot of goals. It just doesn't happen. I'm kind of like almost shocked that the expectation from those of us in the chat here right now is that this team was going to come out and bury 10 and fucking Pontus was going to have 4. Like, what are we talking about? Shouldn't we have understood that this was going to be the case? Shouldn't we have expected a lower scoring offensive game and a tight back and forth and a tight battle? Like, the Sens get up for you. You matched them here tonight. We've seen also games where this Leafs team just goes into these and is out to lunch, doesn't start on time. Well, wasn't the case. And then also, the other point, yeah, second period was a little bit of a snooze fest, but it was kind of both ways. Like, everyone was just snoozing out there. It was sleepy second period. It was 1-1 until the puck goes in off of a guy's knee. One of which, by the way, like, we're not going to make too big of a deal about it here tonight, but was effectively the same situation as Steven Lorentz against Washington not too long ago, where he's like directing the thing at the net, and fucking Pinto at the side there pretty much like kicks the puck, knees the puck, up into the air, and it goes over the wall and in. It's a borderline call, but it's like, hey, we saw it not called, or we saw it called back one time. You see it not even challenged here tonight. I don't know. Boy Soul says, what's the link to chat? Again, if you see there in the, you can see there in the top bar, you should be able to click that. It'll be pinned in the chat. As we're waiting, I see a caller there we'll get to in a moment. So before we get to them, I do want to get to a couple of the super chats that we have, because a few of those have come in. And again, interested to see like where those of you calling in and those of you guys in the chat are feeling about this, because it's just like right now I'm seeing comments that are just like atrocious performance, pitiful performance, and the general sentiment or general idea along with that just kind of seems to be, well, they couldn't score. Yeah, they couldn't. I didn't think outside of that it was too bad. Power play is infuriating yet again. Like, it's extremely frustrating to watch this power play, but like, how many times can we say that? It's game 50. We're just going in circles here. We're having the same conversation every single night. Let's get to some of these super chats. For those of you guys who are returning to the channel and returning to the chat, you know it already. But for those of you who are new, we have a very cool partnership here on the show this season, and that would be our super chat charity partner being Sick Kids. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to Sick Kids, Canada's first children's hospital and a top research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. Make sure you are in the live chat there. We will that is how you send the super chats. You have to be in the live chat, watching it live, watching it in real time. You click the live chat, you'll see a dollar sign there. You click on that, you can send a super sticker, a super pack, whatever it is, or you can send a message with your selected amount. You just drag the slider or type however much you want to send, much like the following. So, Maxentius Decimus, 1 goal for in back-to-back games, playoff Leafs. I mean, fair. The only pushback, and I appreciate the super chat there, Max, but the only pushback is like earlier on in the season, the Leafs were winning games like 2-1 in overtime, or like 3-1 and it was 2-1 with an empty netter. Like, they're playing this defensive style. They were, playing this defensive style of hockey that we were all looking at and clamoring over and being like, wow, so amazing, and winning games. And it's like, okay, yeah, you scored one less here tonight, and one went off a guy's knee over your goalie's head and in. And now we're like, I can't believe we're not scoring that much. It's like, well, we were doing it before. Everyone was okay with it. The team as a whole has to find ways to buy into the defensive system, find ways to score offense here, but it doesn't have to be 5 or 6 goals. You can win 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. Like, you can win tight games. Yeah, those are obviously more goals than one. I get it. I'm not an idiot, but still, conversation is you got to find ways to win in these tight ones. You're starting to try to, reduce chances against. I mean, even in this one, looking at the shots for Ottawa, that's great. You still only gave up 2.1 expected goals. One of them was off a guy's fucking knee over your goalie's head. Another super chat here. So Sangnam, we saw more physical forechecking in the first month. Is the more recent lighter style because this time of year is less intense, or is that a media myth? Honestly, I think it's it's going to be a short answer here. So Sangnam, I apologize. I thank you for the super chat, but I really do think that it is a lot to do with just the time of year. Like, it's game 50, you know? This is when people can get complacent. You just watch teams go on random streaks at times, and it's like, hey, you got hot, and this team, the Leafs still, over like the last 10 or so, it's not like we're in pathetic territory or like anything like that. I mean, looking at last 10 for these guys here right now and how things have all played out, I mean, you're 5-5. It's mid-January to game 50. Like, I don't know. It feels like people came here tonight expecting us to absolutely lose my shit, but I just kind of can't. Like, I agree, there's things that I wish were better here, and I'm not trying to dismiss those things, but some of the sentiments just, I think, the narrative here tonight is just being pushed too far. It's been too much. Like, we're okay. Things will be okay. Let's not panic too hard. But yeah, I do think it's just time of year. And as 6 1/3 points out, like, 2 weeks away from 2 weeks away from Four Nations. Like, you're going to go out, get a break. You're going to go get this time off, and you're going to get guys back from injury. You've also been dealing with John Tavares, Max Pacioretty out on injury. You've had chunks of the season without Matthews. You've had times there where you had no McCabe. Morgan Riley is still not good, which, sure, we can talk about that. We can lose our minds over that here again tonight. But, I mean, the other thing I saw in the chat, which is like, you might have even just deserved a timeout for this suggestion alone, was that this team has to trade Joseph Woll because this loss tonight was on him. What are you smoking to come here and suggest something like that? Well, what did this guy do to lose the game tonight? The puck was kneed over his head. What do you want? I don't know. Easy. Zach is taking... Wait, what does this say? It's Zach is taking a more mature attitude tonight. Thanks. Unknown, I agree. DizK, the fans see a playoff matchup against the Sens and realize they lose that even when healthy. I don't know. Moody says, I think Zach loves Berube style hockey. I do. Like, I think that I do like the Berube style of hockey. And it won a Stanley Cup, by the way. We'll see if that could be repeated, but it's like, look at Florida, Dallas, I don't know, Carolina, Colorado, I guess. That style seems to be the right way to go. I don't think this team is done adding. I don't know. Also, 6 1/3 pointing out, Zach gets mad after win streaks. Yeah, watching the way that they play in those win streaks is infuriating. Lacking effort, barely getting through them, barely getting chances, whatever. This game here tonight, just didn't scream that to me. Like, I felt like I got through the game being like, hey, I wish they won, but Marner was throwing hits. Matthews was in hard on forechecks. You're creating opportunities by getting pucks in deep, going hard, and winning pucks back. Watching Robertson, Lorentz, Kampf, those guys in some of those chances, like, they created stuff. Yeah, they didn't score, but the things to get to those chances, to get to that final opportunity that they didn't score on, were all great things. Felt like they transitioned up the ice well. Felt like they were able to move the puck out of the zone pretty easily. Felt like they were able to get cross center, get the pucks in the corner, and put pressure on the Sens D. Like, nothing felt overly clean for Ottawa to get out here tonight or gain the Leafs zone. I felt like the Leafs made a lot of use of their time in the offensive zone. They just couldn't score. All right, final super chat before we get to our first caller here. Jeff McKay, the thing I noticed a lot was they sucked all night at passing the puck to each other. A lot of pucks into skates and into the other team or mishandling it. Yeah, there was like some disconnection there, I think, on passing. It did feel like that. They were a little bit off in certain points and certain steps of the game. It was a little bit broken up. But again, like, effort, I thought, was pretty much there. Generated chances, just didn't score on them. Goaltending was solid. The one that they score on Ottawa's power play is a 4-on-3 that your forward stick breaks and he can't get out of the zone, and they exploit it because it's a 4-on-2 if he leaves to get a new stick. They passed the puck around, made it pretty easy because he didn't have a stick. I don't know. Like, yeah, there's things you wish were better, but wish tightened up. It is what it is. All right, let's get ourselves to our callers here tonight. And again, to anybody else who wants to call into the show, you guys are more than welcome to at any moment, at any time. You can hit that call button. It is pinned at the top of the chat. I want to know where people are coming from because it seems like a lot of people are in disagreement. There's a bunch of you who are saying, yep, agreed. This is fine. Like, this is good. This is what I was expecting. This is what I was thinking. And then there's also people here right now who are thinking I'm a complete and utter idiot. I guess maybe part of it is also at this point, I'm just at the point of like, I don't even care. Like, you tried at least, which normally we see games against Ottawa where it feels like they don't give a fuck. Let's get to our first caller here tonight. We'll see if they agree with me or disagree with me. Welcome to the show. Who am I speaking to here right now? If we've got you on the line. I see.
It's not me again, is it?
Yeah, there you go.
Jesus fucking Christ. How do you do this to me every time?
Is this Boy Soul we got on the line here?
It sure is. Yeah, thanks for remembering me, at least.
There you go. Yeah, I remember. How are you feeling here
I thought
tonight?
it was going to be the other guy that was all handsome in this little video there. I don't know if the other people don't see that, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, no.
I'm feeling great. I'm loving, we lost. It was tough, but it wasn't the worst loss. Keeper looked good. I love my keepers. The big thing was, everybody's talking about the complacency and how it's the dog days. It's fucking nearly February. The grind. It's, you know what? It's professional athletes. I don't buy into it. It's so hard for me to buy into that idea that they just can't continue to compete. I've worked jobs. Everybody in chat has worked jobs that it sucks. And yet we all grind away. We get our money. They're making millions. They can grind. I think they can grind.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And I do think that they can grind too. I'm not necessarily like saying that they don't care or anything like that. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm okay with this game here tonight is like, they showed up. I thought that they competed. I didn't think that there was a lack of compete here tonight. It didn't feel like they mailed this one in. It didn't feel like they didn't show up. Like, Are we at least on the same page about that one? Because I think that was the first thing for me here tonight watching this game. If I didn't feel that way, I'm probably much more a step in the direction of some of the guys in the chat, like Maxentius Decimus says, I like the way Zach is talking about this game with the injuries. Leafs should have just not played and forfeited the points. Save us all the bother of watching it. I'm not saying that they should have just bailed, or just given up, and we should have said, not like this is a loss, but it's just, I thought that they at least had it compete. Like, I thought that they tried here tonight. They showed up, and that was the first thing. And we walked away being like, yeah, they gave it everything. Like, they gave it here tonight. Yeah, execution on some of the stuff wasn't there, but they gave it. There was a compete level.
There's a thing too. Like, it was a 2-1 game. We didn't get blown out. This was an embarrassment. There's some very good things in the chat, and then there is the usual stuff in the chat where it's just like, let's just trade for Crosby, and it's why we all love it, of course. But like, the average fans, you and I included, don't really know what the fuck is happening in the background. You clearly have more idea than I. But everybody just screams like, well, let's just go get a number 2 center. Let's get a number 1 defenseman. Let's trade Riley for Miller. Like, these are not realistic things that can happen.
Right.
We have a genuine team that is really good, that is leading our division right now.
Yeah.
Not a bad place to be in, guys. Like, people are panicking over a lost game to Ottawa, who has been, not doing great. They were surging, now they're falling. They'll probably surge again in a couple of weeks. It's just the way of the league. It's not that big a deal to drop a game to Ottawa. We know that if we find them in the playoffs, we've never lost to them in our history. So how could we possibly lose to them in the future?
Well, I would say we could. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're more than capable of losing to anybody. It doesn't matter
Yes.
who, how, what. Like, it's very, very easy for this group to do that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess even on this, like, the other kind of point would just be, and I mean, I saw people are like, oh, the big guys played here tonight, whatever. Like, I thought Marner was pretty good. I think Matthews could have been better, but I thought I saw Marner all over it tonight. There was a couple of soft plays. Nylander was kind of in and out of it, but again,
yeah.
This is also like chat. The people in the chat here right now want it both ways. I'm seeing people saying like Nylander has to do more, and then the same people are saying Nylander's line mates suck. Well, okay, what do you want done with this? Like, he's playing with Max Domi and Pontus Holmberg at times, and then at other times he's playing with Holmberg and, Robertson going out there on shifts. Like, he's making things happen. He's making opportunities come up. There was a couple of chances that were created by them where it's him passing to Holmberg who's missing a puck, or Robertson who's like falling over as he's shooting it, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like, there was chances created, but then I don't know how we could be like, his line mates suck. They're not helping him. He's all on his own. And then simultaneously saying the guy needs to do more. The guy needs to be better. Because I think there's periods of time there where it's like, we can't really have it both ways. We're also looking at production with John Tavares versus production with Pontus Holmberg. Two pretty different players, if you ask me.
That's an incredibly good point. Like, you've got all of these really good players that have been putting up good numbers all year that I don't think people were expecting to, and now all of a sudden we're really hoping that the replacements can fill that role. Pretty tough shoes to fill when you're like, okay, Matthew Nyes and John Tavares went down. Who are we going to bring in? It's Pontus Holmberg, and I love him, but Jacob Quillen, or that's tough.
Yeah,
You know,
and I mean, like Quillen here tonight. Yeah, you want to talk about that as well?
look
Obviously,
great,
he gets
look great.
he plays 5 minutes and 21 seconds. Fraser Minton played 5 minutes and 43 seconds. Ryan Reeves played 6 minutes. So you basically eliminated an entire fourth line. Like they played up until the second
Yes,
period, and then that was it. You didn't see them in the third there again. And then outside of that, I mean, you had to have Nick Robertson play basically 14 minutes. Steven Lorentz is playing 12. Kampf is playing 16 and a half. Like, I just kind of don't understand. I truly don't understand. And, I think that this is just people being pissed off for the sake of it because they lost to Ottawa, which I get, and I don't want to lose to the Ottawa Senators.
yeah.
Honestly, like those people, you know what they're doing tonight in Ottawa? They're going to celebrate a Senators win in Quebec because there's nothing to do in Ottawa. That's what they're doing. But they're probably still in their cars trying to leave that arena, and it's like that's a team that gets fired up. You at least matched it. You didn't have the guys tonight. Yeah, you're missing a bunch of players with injury. You just didn't bury. And I get that that's frustrating. And I'm frustrated as well. And Matthews had one shot on goal. Yeah, you want that to be better. But, I mean, outside of some very specific things, this is part of my problem, which I guess I'm pushing back on people in the chat. And 6 1/3, by the way, call in like Boy Soul. Call in and have a conversation on this because people want to just go about it in the chat and then never want to speak up and say anything other than you're wrong. Why? Let's debate it. Let's talk about it. Call into the show. But people won't do that because they got nothing else to support with the arguments other than you're wrong. So, I mean, you can wear capes in the chat all you want, but until you come on the show, I'm not going to hand you the hero title. I don't know, Boy Soul. I'm just kind of at a position right now. Yeah, I wish they scored, but they showed up. They competed. You're missing players. You're missing not just players, important players. You lost by 1 goal.
We're pretty similar guys in this whole thing because, like, obviously I see how many people are trying to talk to you, but every time they pop up, it's just their balls or something. So I can see why Vic's shutting them down pretty good. Way to go, Vic, by the way. Other than that, like, watching the game, watching our boys play, it is so interesting to watch how we have young people in the. I watch the Marlies quite a bit, even though I'm from BC. Watching a guy like Steves absolutely kill it every night, and he kills it on a line with like Quillen, Nylander, Gurbenkin. It's kind of been the same 5 guys. Now he comes up, Quillen that is, and he gets put on a bottom line. They call up Gurbenkin today. He doesn't play, but he's on a bottom line. We really, really are looking forward. I think I should speak for most of the Leafs fans for when the day Steves get brought forward, because he's another McMahon we've been waiting on. He's another left winger.
Yeah, I mean he has had some opportunities. I mean Mike Batson.
He's played 4 games though. Steves has played 4 games.
Yeah, and Mike Batson. They're also pointing out, why wasn't Steve's back? And again,
I'm also
you're gonna
just
get those
reaching.
Guys back.
I'm also reaching. I was not supposed to be on this long, so you know.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, I'll let you do that before you leave, and we got another caller who's waiting here as well. So we'll get to them. But before you leave, any final points? Any final thoughts? Like, where are you at here tonight? Just anything before you go.
Look, we're still number 1 in the division. We're still behind Washington, shockingly, but we're in a really good spot. The enemies are not that impressive to me yet. The trade that Carolina made is very scary. I was anticipating, and I should have asked, if we were to trade Marner, what type of trade should it have been relative to the Rantanen trade? But I forgot to ask that. So I'll leave you with that. If we had to trade Mitch, what would it be like?
I mean, this is part of the issue, right? I think Rantanen's a better player, and I think he deserves more and is more impactful in certain ways. and we don't have to do this, but I'll throw it out there at the chat and just say, if a player who's better than Marner in a contract year could possibly be traded during the season, then why would anybody be safe? It's all out there. But boy, Soul, appreciate it. Thank you for calling into the show here tonight. More than welcome back anytime. So thank you as always, and look forward to seeing you in the chat for the rest of the show.
Cheers, brother. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you. There you go. There is first caller of the night. We do have another caller waiting to get in here. And, I mean, if anybody else wants to call into the show and give their thoughts as well, you are more than welcome to at any time. So we do appreciate people calling in, giving thoughts, asking questions, hot takes, whatever it may be. Thank you all for participating, liking, subscribing, and if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leafs Nation 401 right here on YouTube. Let's now get to our next caller on the night. Who am I speaking to? Hello? Do we got you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you now.
Hey, Zach. Eric
Hey.
calling in, a big-time fan. Always
Thanks,
watching
Eric.
you when you're replacing the Leafs Morning Take there. Love watching the show, and glad to be on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that, and I'm glad you called in. Where are you at on this game? Because it seems to be pretty polarizing. There are people in the chat saying agree. Boy Soul just called in and said agreed with me there, but some people in the chat right now are basically telling me I'm a moron for some of the takes and the opinions that I've got tonight. I'm fine if that's the case. I want to know why, because right now the only thing that's being able to come out of the chat is just being they didn't score and that was embarrassing. But why? I don't know. Where are you at on this one, Eric?
Well, the fact that they're not scoring, that's the Berube effect. They've been like this all year. We haven't had games other than the Montreal last weekend about it's not like Sheldon Keefe hockey where the Leafs would score 5-6 goals. It's not like that this year. It's more of a shutdown game where the Leafs want a 1-goal game and they want to try to defend that lead going into the end of the third. But it's just tough right now. The Leafs are not in the same position where they were at the beginning of the year with all these injuries, because they were doing quite well with all the injuries. But just the decisions that they're making, like I'm all for giving Jacob Quillen a chance, NHL debut, but is that the right time of the year where we are in the standings? I know we're top of the Atlantic, but the last wild card spot's only 10. Like if you look at the Habs, they're only 10 points behind us right now. And I'm not sure if they got the W tonight or if they played tonight, but the Eastern Conference is quite close this year with all the points. You know, you got maybe Buffalo that's out of it, but everyone else is kind of a fair game, Zach. And I'm not sure your take on that, but I would have called up either Steves or Nylander. Like, not sure how his contract is, if he comes back up, if they have to put him back on waivers or whatnot. But yeah, I was quite surprised to see Quill in the lineup. I know they called up Grabenka and maybe put him in. He's got some couple of games under his belt, and just this was a game that we needed to get. These are the 2 points. You know, this game and their last game, we should have got those points against Columbus. But it's like a trap game. It's a Leafy thing to do. That I think it's been like that. They always lose against teams that are struggling to get into the playoffs. But what's your take on that, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it is like, look, people disagree with this one. I'll throw this. I'll just throw this out. And so, like, I understand what you're saying in terms of how tight everything is in the East. Realistically, I think the only people who are believe that the Leafs could actually get knocked out of a playoff spot is like the doomsday kind of Leafs fans or that kind of thing. But like I don't. If you're really watching this team, seeing what's going on, the defense is too good, the goaltending's too good, and you've just got too much talent here for you to miss playoffs. Like it's just not going to happen. And if you even start heading in that direction in the slightest bit, there's going to be changes that are had here amongst especially the bottom 6 guys. Now, as for the players you brought up, there's going to be logistical things. So just throwing out and kind of putting this on the table so people also understand. And excuse me, it was Mario Valello. Quillen had no impact in the game. Like, yeah, he didn't. Positive or negative, I don't think he really had an impact in the game. And the other thing is cap space. Like, the Leafs called up Quillen and Grabenkin, and to make it work because of the injuries, they had to retroactively put Stolars onto LTIR so that they could save enough money space to bring people in, to bring those guys in, because you're depleted in terms of injuries right now. Like, that's part of it. The other, so like, money matters there and why they call up certain people. And then the other thing as well that goes along with this, Eric, would just be, it's waivers and calling a guy up and then sending a guy down who would get claimed, who has to clear, who doesn't have to clear. And the final point of all of it, which all of these things kind of just end up going together, was Quillen had a pretty good camp. Quillen's been playing really well with the Marlies. They rewarded the kid with an opportunity here tonight. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I do understand what you're saying. Like, I don't think it's like you're wrong with any of it. I just kind of looked at some of those things and was like, you had to bring some of these people in or not in because of contract or salary or waiver situations. And if you know that, hey, maybe Matthew Nyes is playing in the next game, like the doctors know, then what's the point of bringing up an Alex Steeves if you're going to have to deal with a potential waiver situation and him getting claimed when you know Nyes is coming back soon, and you could just send down Grabenkin, Quillen, Minton, etc.
Yeah, so like you said, Zach, now's the time to be putting, like you said about the LTIR, but they put like Dewar on IR to clear up some money for
Yep.
Quillen to come up or Grabenkin. But now's the time to kind of do that because we got two more games before Four Nation, correct?
I think more.
Roughly,
I think
or a
more.
couple.
Yeah. One sec.
But
I'll
not
check for you. But it's not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so now would be the time to do that because like our whole core, like the whole team, we have, quite a bit of injuries right now and it's all of our starters. So it's kind of good that it's in this time because we got about, a couple more games before the Four Nation. Now, saying that, we also have four Leafs member playing in the Four Nation, and one of those is Hockenpah, who's going to be playing more games in the Four Nation than he ever dressed up in the Leafs uniform. That saying is that
Which is
hopefully
nuts.
everyone in the Four Nations, Zach, is kind of a big part of our team, minus Hockenpah at the moment, because hasn't played that many games. But we got Matthews, Marner, and Willie, so hopefully everything goes smoothly for the Four Nations, and by the end of the month, all these players that are injured right now, like Nizy and all that, well, they'll have a whole month to heal and to get better. I know they're saying Stolar's to be back next Saturday, perhaps against the Oilers, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I wait out for the month. We are in a good place for the standings. I honestly I couldn't care less where the Leafs finish if it's the top of the Atlantic or in a wild card spot, because in the past it hasn't mattered whether we finish first or we face the Habs in last. Look where that got us, or we faced Columbus. Where did that get us?
Exactly.
We face Tampa
Exactly.
Bay. I couldn't care less whether it's home advantage or away. The Leafs just honestly need to get through the first round, and it doesn't matter who they face. It's the same story every year, Zach. Where it's like, oh, it should be better if they would play this or Tampa Bay. Like, since we
Just
beat
win.
them and went to the second round, we've had their number and we've been doing good. But we know the Leafs are a good team in the regular season. That's not why Sheldon Keefe got fired, because he was honestly one of the greatest coach in the regular seasons. He's got the wins under his belt. It was a playoff. And that's why they brought in Berube for that playoff, tough love.
Mhm.
Because as we all know, in 2019, when he won the cup with St. Louis, the first half they were in last place in the standings.
Yep.
And then, I believe, what was it, Berube? Did he get called up as an assistant and got promoted, or they called up Bennington or something, and they end up
Call,
going all the way and winning the cup?
yeah. Yeah. Brought in Berube, called up Bennington, and then that sent them on that streak. And I mean, that point that you brought up is also spectacular there as well, where you're talking about, hey, sliding in the standings. And I mean, it's just amazing the difference of conversation that you have. Like, the team wins and they play terribly, and people are like, why are you so mad? Look where they are in the standings. And then you get to a point where it's like, hey, I don't think you played that bad here tonight. You got a tough bounce that went against you, and you lost by 1 goal to a rival on the road, with a ton of injuries, and people are just like, you're sliding in the standings, like things are getting away. But Eric, to your point, which I think is bang on, is you were first by a large margin when you played the Montreal Canadiens, and you fell off a cliff and lost. You played the Columbus Blue Jackets and you lost to them and blew it there. Like, you had these opportunities and you didn't take them. Then you play Boston and Florida and Tampa, and you win one and you don't win any of the other ones. It doesn't fucking matter who these guys play. It just doesn't. Like,
No, it
I'm
doesn't.
sick and tired of going into a playoff series or going into preparing for the playoffs and saying, who's the best matchup for this team? Oh, fuck off. Like, you had the preferable matchups and you blew it. You lost them. So who cares? Who cares?
It's like Rosie said. I think he talked about that when you took over for Nick on Leafs Morning Take. But when it comes to the playoff, that's a whole new season. Doesn't matter what happened during the regular season. I don't care about the Leafs playing in the regular season. Obviously, they need wins to make it to the playoff. But game one, that's when it matters, I find.
Yep.
Also, Zach, like, do we have time to talk a bit of trade and speculations here for the Leafs?
Let's go for it.
Alrighty. So we know that we've been talking and speculating about. It's no secret that the Leafs need a third line center. Reports have said that they're looking for a winger and also a defenseman. So they were talking also, and I want your take, or even people in the chat to put their take in here. But what would be more preferred for the Leafs? What's the Leafs' best interest right now? Because we all know it's Shanahan's last year of his contract. So if they lose in the first round of the playoff, I believe him and Marner, they're gone. So in his position, and put yourself, Zach, in his position, the president of the Leafs, if you have the power to tell your manager to make trades, because our window with this decor, it's probably 2 years before OEL or Tanev, they're getting up there in age. Is this the year that we go all out because Tavares and Marner, it's the end of their contract? Do you pull the plug and try to trade either Mitten or some prospects? And I'm not saying for a rental. We want someone with term, because we're not going to give away prospects for rentals. That would be a joke. Like, I know where they're looking at possibly Brock Nelson, which I know he has age and he has no term, but what about like a package deal? It's like, I know there's reports about Yanni Gord and Brandon Tanev, and I think there was a right-handed defenseman that reports. But for me, at the end of the day, I think, like, I know he hasn't played much games for the Leafs, but O'Reilly, it makes more sense for me because he only has a cap hit of 4.5. He's a center. He can play the second center slot if Tavares is out. Like, imagine, like, we had that 1-2-3 C in that year we went to the second round. It just didn't happen, against Florida. They're strong defensively, but that was a good 1-2-3 center.
Yeah.
And for the cap space, they want someone with term. And I know he didn't like his time here, but he's only played him. I shouldn't say he didn't like his time, but he's got Berube. He's
Yeah.
won a cup with them. It's different management. It's different coach. Um, and the Preds they're nowhere near a playoff spots. They're out of it this year. So do you think that he would come back to Toronto under a new coach, new management? Maybe the Preds retain, some money like Ratnins. The Chicago retain. I know they got no options this year, so that's why they retained 50% of Ratnin's contract. But, like,
Yeah.
do you see the Leafs going after O'Reilly, and like Luke Shen as a package, because in the East, there's no one in the East that's going to make a trade because it's so close right now.
Yeah.
If there's a trade that's going to happen in the East, it's going to be with Buffalo or someone that's out of it. But the trade board right now, you got a couple of players from Boston and all that. Well, Boston isn't going to trade nothing for the Leafs because they might be facing each other again in the first round.
Mhm.
So, what's your take on that, Zach? Like, what's your realistic idea here? What the Leafs are going to do, and who they're going to
So,
target?
um, I know O'Reilly's name has been thrown out there. I would say I think much more realistic expectation or more realistic would be Luke Shen instead of Ryan O'Reilly. If you're gonna break that out, I think it would be Luke Shen by a large margin. If you're gonna go out and try to bring in some of these players and you're going to go and try to make a splash, like Yanni Gourde is a guy that's been thrown out there by, I've heard Nick talking about him. I really like that idea. I think that Yanni Gourde would be a great fit here. I really like Brandon Tanev. I threw that name out. He would be a guy who would fit in on the wing. And I think that, if you're going to go and look around other spots, it's, maybe Buffalo is where you start to target, and you could find some guys who maybe need a different opportunity or a different outlook, and they could play lower down in your lineup or just kind of take on a different role, which would be guys like Peyton Krebs or Yoki Haru, maybe even to an extent in Buffalo. So those are some guys that I think maybe you take a chance on because, as you said, when you look at these East teams, it's going to be much harder to get any players out of them. It's going to be much harder to make a deal, especially considering how tight it is and how a lot of these teams, they're looking around saying, Eric, to your point, which is a great one, is let's say right now, right? I'm pulling up the wild card and just taking a look. So you've got teams like the Habs, the Sens, the Blue Jackets, the Flyers, and the Red Wings and the Rangers are basically 3 points spread apart for the wild card spots. 3 points. There's like 6 teams right there. So let's say the Flyers look around and go, we think we could do this. We think that we have a roster here that can get us through. We're not going to which this is the thing I think people need to realize is like, you get pushback and people are like, well, those teams aren't going to go out and try to push for the playoffs. It's like, no, they might not, but they might just choose to not trade for anybody and say, hey, let's see what we've got in this room and let's make a push. So, Eric, which is a great point. Let's say you're at Toronto and you call Philadelphia tomorrow and you say, I want Scott Laughton. Do you not think that price is just more expensive based on the fact that they're in range of a playoff spot? And, on top of that, they're also in the East with you. Like, I think that there's like a little bit of a tax. It doesn't make it like a first round pick to, all of a sudden you owe me Fraser Minton for this. But maybe it's like it goes from a first to now it's a first and a third. And now you're like, maybe I don't want to cough that up. Maybe that's just too much. So some of those teams I think might put you out of it. And again, Boston, another good point by you. But Yanni Gourde, long way to answer your question. I apologize, but if you're going to look for Buffalo, it's a guys like Yoki Haru could go in there or Peyton Krebs, and then you look elsewhere, it's probably someone like those guys in Seattle that you start to take a look at. I'm not really the biggest fan of Brock Nelson as of right now, and then I probably have Luke Shen at the top of my list of a guy you'd want to go out for no reason other than play with Morgan Rielly.
Yeah, so a couple of points on your notes. Let's go back to Philly. So for Scott Laughton, that's not going to happen with the Leafs. So that offer was presented to the Leafs when the draft was in Nashville. That the Flyers' demands were Daniel Briere wanted was a first round and for him, but the Leafs don't have that this year. They only have a first round for 2026. So I don't think that the Leafs are gonna go for that deal. On the Buffalo side, I do think Buffalo's going to be shaking up some stuff to clear out some cap space. I know they bought out Skinner and he's in Edmonton now, but at the third or the second intermission, Elliot Friedman reported that Pettersson and the Buffaloes are in trade talks right now. So I do see a world where Pettersson, because he has a no trade. He does not have one, so he can get traded anywhere. So he did report Friedman that the Sabres are interested in Pedersen. So if they do that, he has what 11.5 or 11.7 cap hit, right? Something like that, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's a big cap hit. So maybe that, and he's a center, so they already have four centers, so they might want to get rid of a center. So is that their third line centers that the Leafs have been linked to before? Who knows? But at the end of the day, it would be nice to have another reunion again for the third time for Shen to come back to Toronto, and maybe O'Reilly, because they have term. I'm not sure. Shen has maybe 1 year on his contract left, but O'Reilly has 2 more years after this year, I believe, at 4.5. So if they can retain some salary, everyone else that the Leafs are linked to, like Brock Nelson or Yanni Gord, he's injured right now. He's in his last year. So the Leafs want size. The only size that's right now that we would are linked to are Brock Nelson, which again is a rental for this year,
Mhm.
or O'Reilly. Everyone else, Yanni Gord's only I think 5'9". Brandon Tanev's not a big guy either. But what's nice about Brandon Tanev is I know he's in his last year, but he's also like a Mitch Marner of the team. He's blocking. He leads his team in block shots. He's on the penalty kill. He leads the team with penalty kills. So that would be nice to kind of see, Mitch Marner on the first penalty kill, and then, Brandon Tanev. But realistically, they need to do something. I do believe the Leafs will do something before the trade deadline, because right now
Yep.
there's not much available, and players are more valuable at the deadline.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
100%.
this whole Mikko Rantanen trade at the deadline, maybe they could have gotten more out of it. But again, there might have been more teams involved, and so that's why Carolina pulled the trigger,
Hmm.
and they got Taylor Hall out of the deal too. I think that was a good steal out of for Carolina.
Yep.
I
I thought
think
it
they
was it
won
was a
that
great job.
deal
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Now for the Leafs tonight, at the beginning of the year, I find Connor Timmins was doing a good job, but now he's not a fan favorite for me. Philippe Myers had a couple of games that are as good for Morgan Riley, but it seems that Riley's had 3 or 4 different defense pair this year, and he hasn't been playing to his potential.
This is a
So
him
maybe,
issue right now. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's a him issue.
Yeah.
I know it's a 7.5 $1 million contract, and people are like, oh, just trade him. But think about the previous years with all the points he racked up, the playoffs. Like we got to give him a break. Maybe he's going. I know he just became a father, so that can be hard on a guy. Just routine and stuff. But he's going to come out of his shell. He's look at Matthews at the start of the year, right? People are writing him off, and now he's come back. And although he didn't, I don't think he had a shot tonight, but Riley's going to come back in action. It's just he needs a better partner than either Myers or they don't have much other in the AHL like Dakota Mermis. Like they can't call up like much people here. They need to
Hmm.
find a D partner for him, because at the start of the year it was supposed to be Tanev, but now the
Yeah.
shutdown pair with McCabe and Tanev, like you cannot break that up in the playoffs, especially on when they're on the penalty kill. But at the end of the day, like, do you think that Luke Shen is going to come back home, or what's the ideal? I know Scott Mayfield's been there's trade talks about him. Like, what's your thoughts on
Yeah.
the deep?
I think it would just be pushing out Timmins, Benoit, and Myers from being 5'6" to one of them being 6, and Riley just getting a partner. You slot in everyone else. Your first pair becomes McCabe and Tanev. Like having to rotate all these guys through is starting to drive me nuts to give Riley some type of stability. Like as you said, it's him. It's his it's his problem right now where you can
Yeah,
very clearly tell he's just not playing well enough. Does not matter who his partner is, whatever. It's not been going that well. You're moving around everyone else to try to make everything work. So I think you get him a partner. If you can do it with Shen, then that's ideal. If not, whatever. You start to sort of slot people around and move guys down in the lineup. You can bump out one of Myers and then one of Myers, Benoit, and Timmins. Then you put OEL onto your third pairing. Like then you're good depth wise. Like D, I don't think needs too much work. This is the first year where we're not demanding a top 4 guy. I personally would be more interested in targeting forwards. Look, this is not someone who's been thrown out there or linked to the Leafs at all, but it seems like Nashville knows they're in a fire sale. Or maybe fire sale is the wrong word, but they're not in a
Garage
position
sale.
here. They're not in a position here where they're really playoffs within grasp. They just went on a 5-game win streak and they are 12 points out of a wild card. Which that's another 6 wins and great. You're in a wild card if you win 6 more in a row and you push this thing to 11. You know what else that means, Eric? The people above you don't win any games. And the pace that they're on right now is not sustainable. We know it. I think they know it. They're not making the playoffs. I'm going to get nuts, and I'm just going to throw this out. I think Barry Trotz maybe looks around and goes, let's see if we can get out of some of these. If people really want to start taking shots and saying, hey, let's swing for the fences, again, this is not coming off of anything. I'm just going to throw a name out there. Jonathan Marchessault.
Yes. Then
he's $5.5 million for another 4 years. He's 34 right now. I get, but imagine that guy fitting into, say, your second line left wing alongside John Tavares. He doesn't solve a center problem. Let me get that out of the way right now. But maybe Nashville retains something because they know that they've got to get out of this. And maybe the Leafs are in more of a position of strength than Nashville, where the Leafs don't have to go out and give up a crazy amount and give up some next level prospects. Maybe they've just got to give up some picks. Maybe there's some kid. Maybe Alex Steeves has to go in this. Again, I'm not saying he has to go, but you know what I'm getting at. Maybe it's just like these guys in the AHL that maybe are going to break through and maybe could be pieces that fit into their NHL club now, and you give some kids some shots for Nashville. Maybe that's something that works for them, and maybe they grab some picks from you, whatever it may be, but then you get a guy with term, and you get a guy with playoff pedigree and experience, and oh, by the way, Jonathan Marchessault won a Stanley Cup. He's played 47 games this year. He's got 15 goals and 23 assists. He's got 38 points in 47 games. Maybe he's a guy who fits well with a Nylander and a Tavares. He's a fiery, feisty guy. Maybe he fits well in your third line. You want to talk about some of these guys? Maybe you got to get creative and look at someone like that who could really make an impact on your team now and going forward.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what Marchessault, if he has a no trade, but it's like you said about, maybe they have to get rid of Steeves. This is the year that they need to go all out. When's the next time, Zach, in your lifetime? Because I'm in my 30s and I've been a Leafs fan for a long time. I've never seen a core or a D pairing like they do this year. So we got the core 4. We got, the best D pair that we've had in the Matthews era. When's the next time are we going to see this? And like I said, it's Shanahan's last year. So you got to go all out with this decor that, I'm not sure if they have no trade clause, but if the Preds are going on somewhat we can't say fire sale because that was Pittsburgh's thing last week, and then Dubas came out and said no, that's he declined the fire sale. They might have a garage sale, but what's Stamkos? He's from Toronto. I know he's got a high price. I think he's at 7 or a couple of mils, eh?
Yeah,
8 mils,
he's got a little bit more of an expensive contract, so it would be
and it's
tough one all the way around.
It is tough because people always say, oh, you can retain, but the thing with retaining on a big contract is I think he signed a 4 years, eh? So the thing with that is that you can't just retain 1 year. You have to retain the full contract. So if they retain 25%, well, you got to do that every year. And what a lot of people don't know is that there's a certain percentage of an amount that you could retain. Not every player on the team you can retain 20% or 50%. There's a certain amount. There's a cap limit on the retaining per team.
Yeah, 50%. and you can
Yes, a
only
lot of
retain
people
2
don't know that.
slots.
People are always saying, I see it in the chat, or the morning take is, oh, they can just retain. It was like, well, a lot of people are still retaining like salaries, and like that,
Yeah.
it's just not how it works. That's why like these managers, like it's not an easy task here to try to make this deal. And kudos for like Chicago. Like people were saying, oh, as if they're retaining like all that money. It's like, well, they're not even in the playoff spot for this year, so they get picks and they're not even going to make the playoffs. Good for them for making that trade, and paying what, like $4 or $5 million on
Mhm.
half of Miko's contract. That was smart on them to do that, because they're
Yeah.
not going to be making a push. Now July 1st, they can go and make stuff and have more cap space with Taylor Hall. I think he was making 6 mils.
Yeah.
That's off the book. But again, getting off topic here. But for the Leafs, they just need to get a third line center, and today proves it when you have, you know, Holmberg on the second line, Mitten on the third or fourth, and they got, Camp. It's just a mess right now. And
Mhm.
even when Domi's center, like Domi's better off on the wing, but they should have put Domi on center in the second line with Willie. Like he was by himself today, Nylander. Like that first line carried the game. They played like 3 shifts in the first 2 minutes there, the first period, and got the goal. But would you
Yeah.
have not put Domi center and Holmberg on the wing?
See look, the thing is, and I said in the pregame, if it wasn't for Bobby McMahon playing so well to earn himself a spot in that first line, I probably would have put Domi on the first line and let him play with Matthews and see if you could get him going there. And then I would have had some kind of combination of like, I don't know, like you're probably end up with Holmberg there on the second line. Maybe you just say fuck it and you try Minton. I don't know, but yeah, it's third line center. Obviously, probably ideal. Move Domi to a wing. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Honestly, like I just kind of can't believe where we're at right now. Like we just lost 2-1 to the Ottawa Senators without Max Pacioretty, Matthew Nyes, John Tavares, and like the conversation in the chat is just like it's over. Like you're gonna lose in the playoffs. Like I can't believe that's where we are. Like this wasn't even a terrible effort kind of night. I didn't think, at least you battled and you went back and forth and you had more expected goals than them. You outshot them here tonight. Your power play, like if people want me to get mad at the power play, get mad at the power play. Yeah, sure, I can get mad at the power play. They fucking suck. I've had that conversation for 50 games. Like 50 games. How many more times can I say it, and how many more ways can I say it? That conversation has run its course. They fucking suck. Change something. I'm never going to be able to do anything with that or about it. And at this point, it's just basically I might as well take what I said in the last 50 shows, 49 shows, copy it, and then when the power play comes up, just press play and take a 5-minute break here on the show, because it's just the same thing every single time, Eric. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of watching this game. I'm like, you battled. You had some significant injuries. You had a bunch of guys pop up. You had a kid make his NHL debut. You lost 2-1. I'm okay with this one tonight. Like, it is what it is. I'd rather not lose to the Senators, but fuck, like, it's
But
game
you have to
50,
think
man.
too that the Sens aren't the Sens that they were a couple of years ago. I know Allmark's injured right now, but the Sens are actually a team that's been pushing, and they're not a bottom team in the standings. That's Buffalo. The Sens had progress, and they came into this game, the last 2 games, they were shut out and they were hungry. So the Leafs were kind of stuck in another trap game like Columbus, but they're not a bad team. The sense like they're due to make a playoff. So like today, and I know it sucks, but at the end, it wasn't a bad loss. It wasn't a 5-1 loss like Columbus. Like for what the Leafs had, like I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
If the Leafs would have had all their players and all the core and all the studs, defensemen and Stolars, well then, and they would have lost like 5-1, well then there's a problem.
Mhm.
But 2-1 game, and the Leafs really, the first line kind of carried the whole game with their decor, minus like Riley and Myers, because I find they didn't play good. Well, that's an exceptional loss. not like the one where they lost against, Columbus.
Yeah, and I'm
But
not even gonna put an exceptional loss. Like, and get what you're saying. I'm not gonna go there with it with an exceptional, but yeah, you lost by 1 goal. Like, I
and it
don't
was a
think the Sens are that great, but whatever.
baloney goal. Like,
Yeah,
and that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Like, would you have not challenged that for a kicking motion?
I probably would have. Honestly, I
Like,
mean,
what do you have to lose?
the video coaches are so good and so smart, but that's one of those ones where I looked at was like, nobody knows what the answer to this is. Like, nobody knows. I brought up the Stephen Lorentz one against Washington not long ago, where it was a couple months back, where he like directed the puck in with his thigh and they called it back. You watch that one here tonight. The guy lifts his leg up at the puck, it hits his knee and goes over Wall's head and bounces in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Who knows if it's the same ref as the one who called the Lorentz one? Maybe it's no goal. Maybe it's like, I don't know. I probably personally would have challenged it, but I could also see the situation of like, this thing is 50-50 and maybe we just don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have challenged it. Would you have, Eric?
Yeah, like I think at the time there was maybe 9 or 10 minutes left. The Leafs are pretty good on the penalty kill. Like I would have took that chance, but again, this year the Leafs video coaches they're pretty spot on. So if there's a reason why they didn't challenge it, it was a good reason. Another thing I want to ask you, Zach, is that where do you see Ryan Reeves? Like it's hard to move that contract, but do you just put him on waivers and send him down at this point to try to clear up some cap space? And who do you see the Leafs trading like Robertson or Holmberg? Like who do you see the Leafs trading before the deadline or at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean the Reeves thing is interesting, right? The if he continues to play minutes like 5 and 6 a night, what the hell's the point? Maybe he's a guy
One
you want to
point three
have.
million dollars. Keep that in mind that he's getting paid per year for one fight. Just keep that in mind.
I know. I look at those as like, I don't know. I don't know where. I don't know. Like that's one where it seems like he's a guy in the locker room who is loved or whatever, and that's great. And I think that when you're talking about a group that has been called out for having cliques and like not being so tight, having a guy in there like that helps. But when you look at, oh, here's a game where you were tied 1-1 for like the whole game. Ryan Reeves played 6 minutes tonight. It's like, great. Like, what is the point? What is the point? So, those guys, I don't know. I mean, you're probably, if you're not making an upgrade on Pontus Holmberg, yeah, I'm throwing in the towel. You're losing in round one. Like, if you're not finding a way to get him out of this lineup on a regular, I don't know if he gets traded or if he gets waived or what the hell happens. But if you're not finding a way to get it out, like to get him upgraded upon, you might as well throw in the towel. Yeah, those are the kind of the guys that I'm looking at for what it might be for trades. But it's also like we can sit here and look at our garbage and say, oh, all these teams would want it. May not be the case. They may just want, they may just want picks back. And then maybe you got to go and turn to Chicago and throw them Pontus Holmberg and get picks back. I don't know how some of this is going to play out. Obviously, trying to watch as much as possible and like be prepared for anything that may go on, but I keep looking at these guys playing 5-6 minutes a night, and it's like I don't think that that's useful to this team right now. Eric, before you leave here, because I'll get on and finish up with a couple more segments and wrap up this show, where are you at? Any final thoughts on tonight's game? Anything else you felt? Any disagreement with anything I've said here so far tonight? Like, just final thoughts before you go here tonight.
Not so much a disagreement, but your last caller and you were talking about, Mikko Rantanen better than Mitch Marner. I'm not disagreeing with that, but with Mitch Marner, he provides more for his team, as in he plays every role, which is a penalty kill. He's on the power play. He's, something. He's the quarterback right now because they're doing this 5 forward. I don't think Rantanen was a penalty killer, but just I think that Marner's going to look for a similarity of a contract that Mikko Rantanen, and it's in the same boat with Matthew Knies and his contract. What is he going to get paid? Well, I'm comparing him to a same style of player that plays for the Habs, Uri Slavkovsky. So Matthew should be making the same money as him or even more right now. So the Mikko Rantanen trade is the same thing as value wise for Mitch Marner. You had McKinnon and Rantanen, and then you got Matthews and Marner. So at the end of the day, if if things don't go well, maybe Treleaven's been known to pull off big trades with the Kachuk trade from Calgary and all that, but maybe we see a world that Marner's not here next year. So, what is our roster going to look like next year? If he lets him walk, that's great. We have cap space, but we get nothing out of it. So, like, what do you think they're going to do? You're going to sign him before the end of the season, or you let him walk and just get cap space and hope for the best at the deadline?
I think that they go to free agency with him and see what happens then. I don't think that they trade him. I don't think that they sign him before the end of the season. I think that this gets to the summer and then see where it's at there. I do think Rantanen's a better player. I would take Rantanen on this team over Mitch Marner 10 out of 10 times, and it wouldn't even be close. If the deal was 1-for-1 tomorrow, I'd think that we won that. I get what you're saying with some of that about how Marner plays all of these things, but I mean, to the point of like the power play fucking sucks. And the power play stunk in the playoffs year after year after year, and it's something that's fallen apart here. Marner is a guy who disappears in that. Rantanen's a guy who steps up for the Avalanche. He's among he's among the leaders in Colorado Avalanche playoff history of like points in playoffs and that kind of stuff. He's one of the highest goal scorers there in Colorado in franchise history, and assists and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The guy does it all. He's a big player. He can at least play physical. He can hold his own. Yeah, and 6 1/3 says Zach hating on Mitch as usual. I'm not hating on Mitch. I'm not. Mikko Rantanen's a better player. He's a better player. I would take him 10 times out of 10. I just would. I would much rather have Mikko Rantanen than Mitch Marner on the team. I think Mikko Rantanen puts you in a better spot to win. I would not pay him as much as I'd pay Rantanen, and that's just where I'm at. And Colorado looked at it and said, we can't pay this guy more than McKinnon, and we've got a Cale Makar deal coming up, and they had to move on from him. Like, I don't think they didn't get the return I anticipated, but
That's why I'm curious,
Zach.
Yeah,
but he's in a UFA, and they knew they were going to lose him, I guess is the point. You know what I mean? Like, they knew they were going to lose him.
So if they traded him because of money-wise, then because they're captains on LTIR, so does that mean he's coming back and they need, that cap space to bring him back? Like they still had, him on LTIR. They could have signed him. Like, when is that Captain Langensov coming back? We don't know.
Well, I think it seems like he's probably going to come back soon. The other thing is, I think Colorado's going to continue to push, and I don't think that they're going to go and just get a Casey Middlestat again. I think that, maybe a guy like JT Miller who was out there is someone that they might try to pursue and try to bring to the team. Maybe that's the way that they go about it. But yeah. Eric, I think that'll do it. I appreciate you calling in here tonight. You're more than welcome back anytime. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for the questions and the conversation. This was fun. This is a good debate here. Kind of, led us down a direction of leading and looking up to the trade deadline, which is much closer than, we're looking at. It's 5 games, by the way, until 4 Nations. You get like 2 weeks off or whatever it is during that period. No NHL hockey, just 4 Nations. Then you come back and you are basically a stone's throw away from the trade deadline. It's fast approach, and we're getting there quick. So, Eric, thanks for calling in here tonight. I appreciate it, and hopefully you call back soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Zach, and everyone in the chat. Like and subscribe to the channel. Go Leafs, go.
There you go. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Okay, I think we have another caller here tonight. If they want to call in, I will set this up, and we'll see what we've got. And we'll do one more call here before we wrap things up. Before we get to them, as I'm just setting that up and making sure we're all good to go on this one. This is a longer one here tonight on the stream. So thanks for everyone who's watched. We got 2 things to do before we get to our next caller here. So quickly, first of all, we did hit 50 likes on the stream. Thank you to everyone who liked the stream here tonight. Let's get these. We'll start with these smelling salts. 50 likes. Thanks to everyone who liked. If we get it to 100, we'll do it again. Make sure to subscribe here to the channel. Leafs Nation 401 right here on YouTube. Trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. Also, I'm just going to ask you guys to do this. Turn on notifications. Turn on notifications. You get notified every time we go live here on the channel. The morning show, the after dark show. You also get notified when videos drop. The pregame comes out. We'll talk about the best bet that we gave out here today and where we're at on that one. We'll see if 6 1/3 house pet could beat me here today, and we'll see how things are going on that. Well, all of that comes out on this channel. You guys get notified right away, and you could watch those. Whether you just want to watch the interviews, maybe you don't want to watch the full morning take show or the full after dark show. You want to watch snippets of it. It's all available here on this channel. You get push notifications the second those videos, live shows all happen and come out. So make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, like the stream here tonight. Thanks for getting us to 50. I appreciate it. Here's the smelling salts. Oh, all right. That's good on those. Okay. Let's see. Boy Soul said in the chat, if the last caller is me, then skip it. Is this Boy Soul on the line? Who do we have here? I do have a caller waiting, so I mean, if they chime in here and they want to say anything, let me know. But I've got a caller. It's an anonymous caller here right now. If you got anything to say, let me know. But till then, figure it out. Billy T, Zach call-in format is outstanding. Great job. Thank you, Billy. I appreciate you guys calling in. I appreciate you guys giving your thoughts on the games and asking questions and pushing back or whatever. I don't know. This caller is just chilling there. I haven't heard anything from them. I'm trying to check and see if I've got like any audio or anything going on. But if they want to say anything, and there's also a good chance that this is literally just Boy Soul and he just hasn't said anything and is just rocking away in the chat there and just has no idea that he's up. But if it is Boy Soul, then Boy Soul, yeah, we're skipping you. Let's get to thank you 6 1/3. Love the red phone icon. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll call out there and we'll wrap up with the callers. Let's get to our final stuff of the night here. Let's go to first and foremost our play of the game. Play of the game. I think for me, play of the game here tonight. I don't know. What do I want to give as the play of the game? What does the chat have as the play of the game here tonight? That's one thing I'm very curious about in all of this is where the chat comes in and how the chat feels about what was the best play tonight. I think, honestly, one of the... I mean, we could give it to Bobby McMann for that goal and the pass from Marner from behind the net. You know, it was a great start to the game. He got out on time. It's your big boys. It's Bobby McMann stepping up to the plate. I'll just give it to that. He deserved that goal. He deserved the opportunity he got on the on that first line. He's been playing excellent since he returned from injury. He's honestly been playing excellent since he got scratched in the first game of the year and just kind of been pushing from that point to get more minutes, more opportunity, and just earning the trust of Craig Berube, which has been a cool development to see. So shout out to Bobby McMann for the growth that he's put forth. I honestly, one of the ones that I could give it to here tonight, I'll give an honorable mention I want to shout out, would be Joseph Woll. After that 1-0 goal, and I know I can't even remember who it was in the chat there was saying to trade Joseph Woll because it's his fault, but get off the crazy pills here. One of the other ones that I would give it to is the Joseph Woll save right after the Leafs had made it 1-0. It's an opportunity that comes down the other way. It's your fourth line out there, which I don't normally mind Berube putting your fourth line out there after the Leafs goal just based on the personnel. Like when it's Lorenz, Kampf, and Dewar, or Lorenz, Kampf, and Reeves, or whatever it is that he's putting out. It's not like awful. I'm not really the biggest fan of it, but it's just whatever. Tonight was probably a night not to do that. Like, honestly, tonight would probably steer clear. You've got Fraser Minton and Jacob Quillen out there right after a goal. Like, you want momentum going your way. You don't want to risk having something go wrong. It's kind of what happened. You know, they got caught. They got in a bad position, and the Sens had a chance. Sens come down. They get a good opportunity. Joseph Woll made an insane save, getting across to save it. Gets his glove on top of the puck and basically just holds it out from off the post. Doesn't allow that thing to get by him. It does result in a Jake McCabe penalty, which, by the way, just going to put this out there as well. Cannot believe that was a call. Like, Jake McCabe is knocked down. Clean play, like it's just a battle at the front there. He's trying to keep the puck out of the net. He's knocked down, and as he's standing up, the guy just like falls over his leg. Like nothing about that intentional. And then the Sens are going to the power play and saying like, how the hell are we calling this thing? He didn't like leg sweep the guy or nothing, in my opinion at least. It looked like he just caught up on his leg and went down. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it, but that Wall save deserved a shout out there. Jake McCabe also rocked somebody pinching in the zone. I don't even know who it was, and for whatever reason, the broadcast did not play it back and did not show the highlight of it there, but he stepped up on a pinch and got all body. Like, he stepped into that and leveled a guy, like really caught him. The guy ended up taking a hit to make the play, so kudos to him, but McCabe stepped up there. Domi was involved, at least from like an energy kind of going perspective, but that was this game was like, you were in there, you battled, you didn't give up. Second period was sleepy for everybody. I wish they won. There was injuries. You lost by 1 goal. The goal, like, also the other thing too is the goal that was scored by the Sens is 4-on-3. David Kampf blocks a shot. His stick breaks. Now you've got a guy trapped out there on a 4-on-3 penalty kill with the Sens closing in, who doesn't have a stick to play the top of the penalty kill. Like, that's a massive disadvantage for this Leafs team. The Sens find a way to get a pass across right through the lane where Kampf's stick likely would have been, and Stutzle shoots that thing post and in. Some unfortunate shit that you wish you could take back or whatever. You don't. It doesn't go your way. I wish it was different. It's not. I'm not pissed about this one. It's game 50. We'll keep it moving. That was my play of the game. Let's get to, as we are about to get to our best bet tonight. I have 2 things. So let's start with this. We're talking about Nashville and trading with Nashville. Wouldn't it be exciting if after the trade deadline, the Maple Leafs headed down to Nashville with a few of their players? We steal some Preds players and then we take them down to Nashville with us to play against the Preds. And not just the Leafs heading down there, but us as the Leafs Nation crew heading down there as well. Myself, Jay Rosehill, Nick Alberga, Carter Hutton, producer Vic, David Pagnotta, as Nick said the other day. All the boys will be down there March 20th to 23rd. Make sure to head on over to nationgear.ca. It's going to be a blast. Winery tour. We've got live podcasts. We're going to the game. There's transportation. I looked it up. Love and Exile wine bar there. The one that Carter Hutton is a part owner at is right around the corner from where the hotel is that everyone's staying at. We've got flight options. We've got non-flight options. Make sure to head on over to nationgear.ca. That's nationgear.ca. I just sent it in the chat there as well if people want to check out. Make sure to check that out. nationgear.ca down in Nashville, March 20th to 23rd with the boys. Full experience. It'll be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss that. It's not an ordinary vacation. This is a nation vacation. Yeah, I mean, I see in the chat there, Unknown says, way she goes, Zach, right? Yeah, this is kind of one of those, like, way she goes kind of nights, at least for me, and some people in the chat disagree, whatever. I get it. I get being frustrated with a loss to the Sens, and I'm frustrated with the result. I'm not really frustrated with the way that this thing played out. I don't know. It's just me. It is what it is. Maxentius, the clip never plays properly, and I got no idea what it is. I have zero clue why the clip doesn't play. Like, zero idea. There's nothing. I've tried this a billion times. It just doesn't work. I record the game preview. It works. I do the live show. It doesn't work. Like, what do I do? Okay. Let's get to... Oh, wait. This is the other thing I want to do quickly. I saw a comment. I just want to say this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I saw a comment. We brought in a defensive coach for an offensive team. I think it might have been Diz K who said that earlier. I could be wrong. But we brought in a defensive coach for an offensive team. Maybe it was worm castings, honestly. And there's a complaint that Berube was brought in here. We had an offensive coach here before. You lost in the playoffs. You weren't able to play a playoff brand of hockey. Time to change. Like, you're going a different way. You're trying a more defensive style. You're allowed to change things up. And also, by the way, if these guys aren't capable of playing that brand of hockey, maybe we've got the wrong guys. Maybe it's not the coach anymore. Maybe after 8 years, Diz K, I'm sorry. I know it's not you. Sorry. You said you clarified. Probably wasn't you. Point is, if that's the case, maybe you just have the wrong guys. Might be the wrong players. Anyways, let's get to our final segment here. Our second last segment, sorry. We do have to get to the grade of the game quickly at the end. But let's get to tonight's best bet, which ended up going real well for us here tonight. And yet again, we are on a heater. Our best bet segment is brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of the Leafs Nation pregame and the Leafs Nation after dark. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION, NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Tonight's best bet now puts us on a 5-game win streak, and we cash yet another big one. Talked about Bobby McMahon a bunch here tonight, him stepping up into the role. Another win is now 5 in a row. It puts us at 18 wins and 35 losses on the season, but you know what it also does? It puts us up 2.88 units on the year. We go 10 games lost in a row, then we go 5-1 in a row. We cash a plus 210, plus 400, plus 300, plus 135, and a plus 325 here tonight, profiting us $162 on the night on a Bobby McMahon anytime goal, opening the scoring right away in the first period, and we don't have to sweat that one the rest of the way. So well on our way up into the positives here tonight. Thank you to Bobby McMahon. Okay, let's get out of here with this. You guys are watching right now. Make sure to send them in the chat. I want to see what you have. What do you have for your grade of the game here tonight? How are you feeling about this one? I think that this tonight is probably going to have like a wide-ranging results in the chat, truthfully. I'm going to give mine right away. I think I'm at like a B-. I feel like there's going to be people in this chat who are at an F, a D. Like, I think you guys are going to be low. I'm at a B-. You had 29 shots on goal. You won the face-off dot. You got out-hit, but I felt like you carried most of the play. You had a lot of chances. You had more generated, more expected goals than them. You beat them on the deserve to win a meter. Like, you did all these things. You just couldn't score. And look at the bigger picture. You're looking at a desperate Sens team who's trying to make the playoffs. And you're looking on the other end at a Leafs team who is missing some of their best players to injury and is calling up kids for their NHL debut. You've got a fourth line that's playing 5 minutes. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was that terrible of a game. It's not a great result. But ultimately, like, the first goal that's scored by the Sens comes on a 4-on-3 penalty kill where your top penalty kill guy, or the guy at the top of the triangle, his stick breaks and he's out left without one. So it's basically a 4-on-2. And then after that, you've got a goal that goes in off a guy's knee at the side of the net. Unlucky. Unlucky night here. And yeah, you want to capitalize, but ultimately I know that these guys are not going to be here. And people are saying, hey, they've got to score. You got to have these guys who can score, and Holmberg and Robertson, etc. They've got to find ways to step up. Agreed. And long term, yeah, that's probably the case. But I mean, look at where you can kind of slot guys in the future. Holmberg and Robertson are not going to be facing, and Domi are not going to be facing those matchups nightly. They're not going to be facing for top 6 players. They're not going to be facing top 6 players. So they're probably going to have more favorable matchups and more opportunities to score goals, or just better suited for them to score goals. This is just not that frustrating of a loss tonight. I don't know. I don't really care. Sens goaltending has been pretty good as of late. They're getting it from guys. What do we do? Evan LeBlanc, your team sucks. Cope. What team do we think this guy cheers for? The Sens? You guys declared a rebuild over 8 years ago, and you're still in it. You still haven't made the playoffs. I don't know. What do you want here? Anyways. Max Entius says, next time they lose, or next time they win and he's moody, I mean, did we watch the game? Did we watch the game, and did we take into account who was playing and who was not playing? It's kind of what we're looking at. I don't know. It's game 50. They didn't play that bad. They just didn't score. Anyways, B- is my grade. I'm really not that frustrated. Shit happens. The best way to kind of deal with this one here tonight, though, would be heading over to a very special spot. And that would be Greta Bar. If you're not heading over there, I don't know what you're doing. This segment is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar. Great spot before, during, and after the game. Check out the great street food menu that they've got over at Greta. It's something that I go for, whether I'm going for dinner, if I'm going before games, if I'm there late night and just want some snacks or whatever it is. The street food menu is unbelievable. You can order it up at the window that they've got there. You can order it at your table. It's great service. Everything is fast, friendly. The staff there is awesome. Go in there. These people treat you amazing. I love going to Greta as well because I'm not really the biggest fan of going and sweating and bumping shoulders with people in the bar. I like kind of being able to have some space and move around and, talk to my friends if I want to. And Greta Bar is a perfect spot for that. Maybe you got to go blow off some steam here tonight because people are pissed about this loss. You want to go and have some drinks and you want to play some arcade games and beat someone's ass at some air hockey. Then Greta Bar is the perfect place to go, so make sure to check that out. Weekly drink specials, Greta Bar is the place to be. 590 King Street West, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, hopefully everybody has a good rest of the night. Nick is probably there, as I see Marquis saying in the chat. He probably is there at Greta right now. Maybe he's getting over this loss tonight, which I don't think he's too upset either. I was talking to him about it, so I think at least Nick and I are on the same page. You guys make of that what you will. But thank you to everyone who watched tonight. Appreciate it as always. That'll do it for the post-game show here. A long one on this one. A couple callers here tonight. Couple different thoughts. Some future stuff that we're looking into. Maybe how the trade deadline plays out. Maybe an article coming out for myself tomorrow. We'll see about a player that I mentioned here tonight. And we'll go fantasy hockey. Who knows? Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. Thanks to all the callers. Thanks for the likes, the super chats, all of that. This has been game number 50 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing to the Ottawa Senators 2-1. Thanks all for watching. I'll see you guys on Monday watching Leafs Morning Take at 11 a.m. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.